delegating the chores of authenticating users to Keycloak. Welcome to our talk here at KubeCon in India at Hyderabad. My name is Alexander Schwartz. I'm a maintainer of Keycloak, and together with me,
I am Rishabh Singh, and I am a senior technical support engineer at Red Hat and a Keycloak contributor.
Right, and this is the agenda for the next about 25 minutes. We talk about the motivations of why you want to delegate authentication to a different system, give you lots of practical examples how authentication can work with OpenID Connect, and then we show you all the other things Keycloak can do for you that you don't need to do yourself in terms of managing of users. And we finalize then with standards everywhere, how these standards of OpenID Connect and SAML and other standards help you to integrate Keycloak or a different other identity system into your infrastructure. So why this talk anyway? Authentication is answering the question, who are you? But then sometimes you want to start even before that. Before you ask a user, who are you, you want to figure out if the user is already logged in. And OpenID Connect has the means for that as well. There's technical diagrams you see here, a flow diagram back and forth. This is how usually an authentication flow has been explained. Instead of that diagram today, we will really put it to use and show you examples how to do that. And we also show you how to benefit from the features of Keycloak that help you to do a minimal amount of work around managing users, managing roles, groups, and all those things. And there's a lot of things you can do with Keycloak and authentication. You can check, as I said, already logged in, but you can also do user registration, forgot password, validate an email address, incremental profiling, second factor. That's more we can show in a demo today, but we will show some of those, including like registering a user and already logged in user. And with these practical examples, we have some actors in display in the demo. And well, we have an end user. An end user has some credentials. It can operate a web browser. We have obviously Keycloak being an OpenID provider. And it shows a login screen, right? It can validate credentials as an issue and validate tokens. And of course, there's an application. An application wants to know who the user is, wants the user to log in. And yeah, these are the three actors of the demo that we will see then several times. Keycloak itself, it's an open source identity and access management system. It's actually 100% open source. So there's no open core or whatever. It's really 100% of it is open source. The Cloud Native Computing accepted it as an incubating project in 2023, and it's specially licensed at about 29,000 GitHub stars. And if you want to learn more about Keycloak, there's also a Keycloak conference happening in Amsterdam at the 28th of August. It's also going to be streamed online, so either join us there or watch it online. We also have great case studies from different companies. And just on the Monday, we added another e-government case study where people are using it to authenticate all the business that are there in Austria, European country, and how they applied it to their work. And it's one of the CNCF case studies that's now published. Right, and with that, let's dive into a real example. Yeah. Over to you.
So Keycloak is OpenID compliant, and as per OpenID specification, Keycloak has this well-known endpoint where we can get different Keycloak endpoints. So it looks like this. It has all the different endpoints like authorization endpoint, user info endpoint, token endpoint. And we will see some of these endpoints in action in upcoming slides. So basically, when we start our authentication, initially, if we want to delegate authentication to Keycloak, we have to call or initiate or redirect to authorization endpoint of Keycloak. So when we start this authentication, we also pass a redirect URL. This redirect URL is the application URL. So once Keycloak authenticates the user, it redirects back to this URL. And we have a configuration option, prompt equal to none. So here we are passing it as none. We have other options as well. So if we go into this application, this is our demo application. we have this server info where we are loading the well-known endpoint. These are all the endpoints which you can see, and there are other configuration options as well. So if I search for prompt here, I can see that certain prompt options are available in Keycloak, like none, login, create, consent. So I'm passing here prompt equal to none. So once the request reaches to Keycloak, it redirects back to the application and says that login is required. So if we see this in action here, if I open this application and refresh this application, I can see this is the authorization endpoint which was redirected from this application, and we have this prompt equal to none here. And in response, we received that that login is required. Now we have this Keycloak. Now we can create new users in Keycloak directly going through the admin console, or we can also register the user through the application redirection. So here, how we can do that? We will use authorization endpoint again. We will use the redirect URI, and here we are passing prompt equal to create. So once we pass prompt create, we will get a registration screen of Keycloak. So it will look something like this, where you can enter the user details and you can register a new user. So I can do this here by going to register. I get this registration screen of Keycloak, and if I see, I have initiated the request with prompt create here. And this is the same authorization endpoint URL. So I will create a new user here. Oh, sorry. So I'm just creating a random user. Here I can register this user, and once I register this user, I get redirected back to the application, and it has all these options which we will see in upcoming slides. For now, I'll log out this, and we will go to the next slide where I'm going to log in the user. So in previous slide, we saw that we created or registered a new user. Now, in a standard flow, if you want to initiate just the authentication with Keycloak, you will use the same authorization endpoint, and this time you will use prompt equal to login. So just by doing this, you will be redirected to login screen of Keycloak. It will not give you the registration screen. And mostly, I think this is used if you want to authenticate. So here, I will do this by going to the login screen. And if I see this here, this is the same authorization endpoint. The prompt here was login. I will enter the user which I just now created in the previous slide. Yeah, and now I am logged in. So if we see this, we can divide it in a two-step. In the first step, you initiated prompt equal to login, and in response, Keycloak provided a session state and a code. Once the application receives the session state, application will initiate a request to token endpoint of Keycloak using this code. And in response, Keycloak will return back the ID token, access token, and refresh token. So if we see here, initially we authenticated with Keycloak here, and then we received this session state, and we can see this code. So this is the code which was returned back by Keycloak. And in the next request, we can see this is the token endpoint of Keycloak, and we have given the code in the request. So if we see the payload here, the code is provided. And in response, we received the access token, refresh token, ID token, all these details. So once you are logged in and you want to, or through application you want to check if the user is still logged in or not. So you can use the session state which was received in this request initially. So we received this session state here, you can see that, and we can inject it in an iframe and we can check the status that if the user session is still valid in Keycloak or not. Now, once you receive this access token, so you received this access token, in certain amount of time, this access token will expire. And once it is expired, you can use a refresh token to again get a new access token and refresh token and ID token. So you can use this refresh token to generate new access token once it is expired. So refresh token has a larger expiry period which can be set through Keycloak. Now you can also get the user information from Keycloak by just calling the user info endpoint. If we see here, this is the call which was made to Keycloak, and this is the user info endpoint, and in response we received this user detail from Keycloak. And we have passed in header, if you see, we have passed the authorization header with bearer token, where we have passed the access token which was received in earlier request. Now lastly, you can also log out from the application by just using the end session endpoint. These all endpoints are present in well-known endpoint, which I showed in the previous slide. So end session endpoint is like the logout endpoint, and you will have to pass the post logout redirect URL. So once the logout is successful, the application will redirect back to this redirect URL. And you will also have to pass the ID token and the client ID. Once this is done, we are redirected back to the post logout redirect URL. So I can do that from here. I can just call logout and it just goes back to the initial screen. Yeah, so overall we saw the complete workflow of authentication, getting user information, and then lastly we logged out. So all this we can delegate to Keycloak. So now Alexander will take you forward from here.
Yeah, thank you very much for showing all that. Now we have it set up. So it was all authentication we showed. It was all OpenID Connect compliant. And I think it's a great place when you want to learn about OpenID Connect. Even if you're not using Keycloak today, try it out and dive into the standard, what it can do for you. It really helps you to not implement all this user management, session management again. But as I promised earlier, there are a lot of other things that you will also need when you're managing your users. For example, at some point you want to enable a second factor authentication for your users. That's also a part of Keycloak. You can have a second factor where you enter maybe a six-digit code. You can enable also passkeys. And again, we built on the authentication, the authorization endpoint that we saw earlier, and we passed just another parameter saying ACA values equals 2. So I want to have the same login flow as before, but then with a second factor when I configured it in my setup correctly. It's a bit beyond this demo here today, so I will skip that demo part here. And something you would always check then if you set this ACR value in your authentication flow, that the ID token that is being returned really contains then this authentication level or authorization level that you asked for is then present in the token. Another thing, when you have user info in a different system, you can leverage Keycloak's account console. So we have a user, and we log in that user here, KubeCon, and maybe test.
Red Hat.
Oh, Red Hat. Okay. So you know the password of that user. And what I can do, I can go to the account console. And the account console is a fully fledged UI that comes with Keycloak, where I can manage that user information. I can change my name here, KubeCon2, and I save it here, and then the account has been updated. I go back to my application, and the user information has been updated. So again, something that I don't need to do as an application developer. It all comes with Keycloak, and it can also be themed to show the colors of the company that you want to have here, matching your requirements. So again, it's just a URL redirect away. You call the account console, give it a referrer from what client from which application I'm going to the account console, what is the URL I want to refer back from the account console. So it's really a web-like experience with redirects. The thing is, sometimes you don't really want or need a fully fledged account console, but you might still want some of these functionality that is in there. And what we then have, we have the option of again, this authorization endpoint, so it keeps on recurring here, and you pass another parameter here. Now this parameter is Keycloak specific, and we call it application initiated actions. And once you enable, for example, update profile, I can go here and have a link in my application, say update profile. Again, I have this also redirect with the same parameters, but with a KC action at some point. KC action update profile. I will just get one screen where I can update my profile. The rest of the account console is hidden. Just update my account information. I can submit. I can do cancel. That's then what the user chooses. And it's not only updating profile. They're updating password, delete account, configure a one-time password, register passkeys. All of that functionality is available as application-initiated action and in a very modular fashion. So you can really pick and choose what you need in your environment, and all these flows, you don't need to build them yourself. One of the flows that I want to demo is then the verify email flow, which is new in 26.2. It was there before as part of the login flow, but now you can use it as an application-initiated action as well. So I can go here. At the moment, the user info tells the application the email has not been verified. What I can then do, the application can trigger this verify email. We send out an email. The email arrives in the inbox of the user. The user clicks on that link. The user is returned back to the app, and now the email is verified. So this whole flow of verifying an email can be part of Keycloak, and then you don't need to take care of that in your application as well. And you can trigger it when you need it by this application initiated action. You can also manage different user data. You can use scopes, for example, configure a scope and connect this scope address to specific fields of the user. And what we have for that, a fully fledged, I would say, form editor in Keycloak. I probably need to log in again. So you find that here in the user profile, I defined here a new field called formatted address. I can give it a name to how it should be displayed. I can say when it's shown. I can tell it who is this field required for. It's then required only when a specific scope is requested, so the user should only be able or will be enforced to enter an address when the application asks for the address scope. I can configure who is then allowed to edit this. So it's really a fully fledged form editor that allows you to trigger the right functionality at the right point. So I'm now logged in, again, KubeCon and Red Hat. And I can then say, I want to now have the extra scope of the address. And I like as the address is not yet filled out, it's now shown as a required field. I can put in my address here, home address. And now this address is filled out. It's also part of the user info, it's part of the tokens. And when I go next time, request this scope, this extra scope address, I will not be asked for that because the user has already filled out that information. So it really allows for incremental profiling and picking the right information when it's actually needed. There's more there. You can in Keycloak configure a lot of things around the authentication flows. For example, there's a community extension called restrict client auth. So maybe you have an application that not everybody is allowed to enter, only when you have a specific role. So you add this extension, you add a specific role to the client, you add a specific role to the user, and then Keycloak will show an error message even before the user is redirected to the application, and the application doesn't need to do anything about checking here. So if you want to find more about Keycloak extensions, There's a whole page where we list them. Right. So with Keycloak, what we saw today, a lot of authentication and user management is there, and it's just a redirect away. So we redirected with OpenID Connect, we redirected maybe to some custom endpoints of Keycloak, and all this functionality you've seen today is already there. You don't need to re-implement that. Usually an OpenID Connect library will do the heavy lifting for you, but it's really good to know what's happening under the hood, what's happening with the URLs, what functionality is there. Sometimes there might be a parameter in your library that you haven't thought about it so much, but now you know that, okay, it can offer and it can unlock a great piece of functionality for me. Again, what we showed mostly today was the prompt with the different values and the KC action with the application-initiated action. And the scopes are very, very helpful for incrementally acquiring user data. And please try out Keycloak's preview features and provide feedback so they can be sure or you have feedback on the existing functionality, please reach out to us. So these are the links, including the link to the slides about Keycloak and all the features that Keycloak Server has. OpenID Connect, the standard, if you want to read like the dry stuff with fewer diagrams. The demo code is online already. And maybe join us online, maybe join us on site for KeyConf on 28th of August. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we now have, I think, about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So the question was, Keycloak supports OpenID Connect too, but does it also support SAML? Yes, we support SAML. So your applications can connect using SAML to Keycloak, but we also do federation with SAML and OpenID Connect, right?
Yeah. So we can, meaning add external identity providers using SAML. So yeah, we can both provide Keycloak as a SAML identity provider and integrate with external SAML identity providers.
Some sort of gateway which can actually integrate with Keycloak and does the authentication or authorization.
Okay, so the question was, does Keycloak have its own things about authorizing users, like checking which roles and permissions they have? At the moment, no. I think there are other, like OPA or others, that can do that for you. So you send your token there, and OPA can then check your token, the permissions. It has integration with access tokens, so yes, it can do that. But then you need to put probably other data into OPA as well, or yeah. Somebody has a microphone over there.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the session. So this is good, and I wanted to know the best way in the production environment. How do we ensure that the configuration is automated? Is that the Ansible is the best way, or the operator? And if we go with the operator, does the operator have all the possible configuration options available, which is available in the from the UI?
Yeah, so I think when you go through operator, there are a custom resource for server level configuration. But if you talk about just the Keycloak configuration, realm level configuration, then there is a custom resource for Keycloak realm as well, where you can create once the realm and you can just update configuration in that custom resource, and then you can just use that if you want to automate or use it.
So that realm importer CRD, does that have all the option? Because I have come across some of the issues where it doesn't support some of the features like themes or maybe some user profile related option. So we don't want it to get into that in a future situation. We don't have option in the production environment to upgrade it. Then we need to break glass and go use the UI. So I just wanted to know, is that any public community based Ansible collection is available for the Keycloak which can be used?
Yeah, so this realm imported once, but then not necessarily updates it. There is a Terraform provider. We can use Terraform provider to update the realm incrementally if you want to do that. There are also Ansible scripts, as you asked for. Maybe they're not. They should be linked on the web page already. Maybe if they're not, in the community section, please let me know. And what else? Yeah, I think the Terraform, and there's Keycloak config CLI, another project where you can do configuration as code with Keycloak. So there's a bunch of tools that help you to do that in a scripted way. Yeah.
Where is the user information stored?
So the question was, where's the user information stored? You can choose. It can be stored in its own database, a Postgres database, MySQL, whatever. You can also store it in an LDAP. You can also choose to only use the information from a federation, so that you have maybe a SAML or OpenID Connect provider where you pull the information from. So they have a choice.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the demo and the wonderful session. So the thing is, like, I have a use case. So when we know that we can have a scope which can be added into the token. But if I wanted to have a dynamic scope, say for example, I am using a multi-tenant application where I wanted to include a tenant ID into the token. So is there a way to do it without implementing SPI?
Yeah, I think at least we should have that configuration in Keycloak. And you are talking about dynamically adding the tenant ID in the token.
Exactly, yeah.
So so at least that tenant ID should be present previously in the user information. And
No,
I think when you have different realms, you will already have that the configuration in the user information.
Yeah, so the having a realm per tenant will be a problematic because we have a hard constraint in the Keycloak that more than 500 realms you can't create it, right? So we have a limitation of the realms. So there we need to consider like having a single realm with multiple users, and users have access to multiple tenants. And I wanted to have authentication in such a way that the token should have the valid tenant ID in that, so that our authentication system verify, okay, this so-and-so user has only access to the so-and-so tenant from the token itself.
Okay, so something we introduced, was it 26.2, is organizations. A feature where you can have one realm, and inside the realm of Keycloak you can have multiple organizations, and each organization has then a unique email domain, for example, and then you can invite users from one organization to another, and this information about the organization, this organization ID, will be part of the token, and this organization ID might be that this tenant ID you're looking for. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you use in Keycloak organizations, that will solve the tenants for you. If you have a custom tenant concept, you need to have some custom way of doing it. Yeah.
SPA is the only way to interact with the external system and get the tokens.
Yeah.
Well, if you use the organizations of Keycloak, then you don't need to use an SPI. Then it's already there.
Okay, but this organization is available in the latest version. Is that right?
Say again?
This Keycloak organization is available in the latest version. Is that right?
Yes, I think 26.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe last question, looking at the time.
We use OpenStack and we use Keycloak for authentication and authorization. So for there, I think we have implemented our own libraries called Keystone from, I think a service provider. So to do that, I just wanted to know if Keycloak has some. So you told that it does not have something, so we can build it, right?
Yeah. So if Keycloak does not has anything, you can add extensions. You can add your own logic within it. So there are option of creating service providers. So you can create that and add in Keycloak.
Good. Thank you.
All right, I think. Yeah, last question then. last question.
Okay, in our scenario, basically, we are having one RIM and we are having one client inside the RIM. So we have enabled a dual IDP support, like we are having dual IDPs. So I just wanted to configure my authentication flow in such a way that my Keycloak provides some default pages when you just provide different IDPs. So there's a username field is always available. I just wanted that, is it possible that I can get only two IDPs names in that default rather than providing my username and other things?
Okay.
In authorization flow.
Okay, so you are asking that when you have two IDPs,
Yeah.
the screen which you get, there you have username and password along with two IDPs.
Yeah, so there are different forms, username, password form, different pre-filled
Yeah.
forms are available. So
And
I'm
you
just
want only those two links.
yes.
Yeah, so there are option to customize the themes. So
Okay.
there is, so you can customize the Keycloak themes and you can change it accordingly. You can remove those fields.
And to add to that, when you use organizations in Keycloak,
Yeah.
you have then an organization has an email address domain,
Yeah.
and then you can connect an IDP that's specific to that organization, and then the user will enter their email address. Keycloak will look at the domain of the email address, and then will direct directly to the right IDP. So you don't need to choose any IDP at all.
Yes, yeah,
So
that
that-
would be great, yeah.
Yeah, that's I think very helpful. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's close here. We will have a project table starting at 3 o'clock in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.